Israeli forces launched a series of airstrikes and limited ground operations against Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon as the border conflict escalated sharply in recent days. Israeli military officials said the operation targeted rocket launchers, weapons storage sites, command centers, and underground tunnels used by Hezbollah, the Iran-backed Shia militant group that controls much of southern Lebanon. The military added that it issued evacuation orders for more than 50 villages and several urban districts to minimize civilian casualties. The escalation followed a barrage of rockets and drones fired by Hezbollah into northern Israel, the first major attack of its kind since a previous ceasefire took hold. Israeli officials described the salvo as a direct violation that crossed clear red lines and demonstrated the group's intent to resume large-scale attacks. For months after the ceasefire, Israeli forces had conducted hundreds of targeted strikes and special operations inside Lebanon, aimed at disrupting what Israeli intelligence described as systematic rearmament efforts. Those lower-level actions, which rarely drew international attention, formed what both sides privately called a hidden war. Hezbollah officials had denied violating the agreement, saying any activity was defensive and that Israel was the aggressor with its repeated incursions. Under the terms of the earlier ceasefire, Hezbollah was required to withdraw its fighters and heavy weapons north of the Litani River, roughly 30 kilometers from the border, and allow the Lebanese army to take control of the area. Israel agreed to pull back most of its troops in exchange. Lebanese government officials acknowledged that full implementation had been slow, citing the militia's entrenched presence and the weakness of state institutions. Israeli officials said intelligence showed Hezbollah had quietly rebuilt parts of its arsenal, smuggling components and establishing small production workshops despite the restrictions. Estimates by Israeli military analysts placed the group's current rocket and missile inventory at roughly 25,000, down significantly from pre-ceasefire levels, but still enough to threaten major population centers if left unchecked, they said. The decision to move from targeted disruption to a broader offensive came after the recent Hezbollah barrage, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office stated. Officials argued that the attack proved the group had regained enough operational capacity to test Israel's resolve, and that further delay would allow it to restore its full strength. The Israeli military said its forces had already destroyed dozens of rocket launchers and command nodes and established new buffer positions inside Lebanon to prevent future infiltrations. Officials emphasized that the goal was not occupation, but the creation of conditions under which the Lebanese army could exercise real authority in the south, and the roughly 60,000 Israelis displaced from northern communities could return home safely. Hezbollah's acting leader, Naim Qassem, issued a statement saying the group's rocket fire was a legitimate response to Israeli violations and that the militia would continue to defend Lebanese territory. The group accused Israel of using the ceasefire as cover to weaken the resistance axis and vowed to inflict costs until Israeli forces withdrew completely. Analysts monitoring the conflict noted that even in its reduced state, Hezbollah retains precision-guided missiles capable of striking deep inside Israel. Israeli assessments, released through military briefings, indicated that unchecked rearmament could restore pre-ceasefire threat levels within months. By contrast, the current operation has already disrupted supply chains and command structures, officials said. Inside Lebanon, reactions have been sharply divided. Many residents in Sunni and Christian areas blamed Hezbollah for provoking the latest round by firing first, according to local media reports and interviews. Some Shia communities in the south expressed support for the group's stance, viewing it as resistance against Israeli pressure. Israeli officials said the operation would continue until key military objectives were met, including the destruction of remaining long-range missile sites and the establishment of a demilitarized zone effectively controlled by the Lebanese state. Hezbollah officials countered that any Israeli presence on Lebanese soil would be met with sustained resistance. As strikes and ground maneuvers continued, both sides signaled that the coming days would determine whether the conflict expands further or whether diplomatic efforts can restore a more stable truce.